Alright, good evening everyone. System Chalk here, and we're on to the 26th episode of the Cultist Simulator Dancer DLC, playing as Margaret. So we got quite a bit done last time. I apologize for letting the runtime go a bit longer. I'll try to keep things a little more focused. But we have a few things that we want to get done. I have a few things that will be expiring. So we've got a percussivant, which we want to make the most out of. And if I can, I'd like to use the urgency of appetite to bring in a raw profit. I don't believe that would be enough to bring Azine. But we certainly have no shortage of things to use the percussivant for. We've got the Hebe Stanton, Gladwin Lake, Gwerin, Lockwood Fen, basically tons of expeditions. Now, I don't necessarily think a lot of them are going to require a heart follower, so I am kind of wasting the percussivant in that sense. But doing the expeditions is something that will allow me to preserve it so that when I do need to use it, it's there. The other challenge is that we've got 4 notoriety. That is because we painted the Red Grail. I think this is a right call because this does give us an 8 strength Grail instrument. I believe that's tool, sorry. So compared to the stained gloves, it's twice as much. This is actually maybe one thing that's worth keeping in mind, is that as long as you've got a pigment, it's actually not a bad way to get a high value tool. And I don't really do this as often as I should, but obviously here there's really only one aspect that we have sort of an equivalent power for. So I could do that for Grail, for Heart, and for Lantern. And certainly that would actually be the highest amount that I have of any of those aspects. And of course, this would be even more useful for me if I was a Heart Grail or a Lantern Cult, because of course I could use that later on in terms of recruitment. But in this case, there's not a lot of benefit to kind of using those, or to thinking about those hypotheticals too much. It's just more kind of planting the flag for people who might be working through their own playthroughs, particularly people who maybe haven't completed the game yet. This might be a way that you can bring your cultists up to a higher level if you've been struggling with that. So let's start with our expedition. Now, the Hebe Stanton's going to give me a lot of works, and a lot of works that need to be translated, but I don't see anything wrong with just sort of doing them in this order. So let's start with it. A battered but surprisingly plush steamer, much used by actors fleeing scandal, by shy millionaires, by occult scholars who feel safer with moving water under them, and just want by Wildwood Club, who chartered the whole ship for the use of 7 cabins. I feel like we'd need a moth follower on this, so we'll bring Porter in, and we'll put the funds there. It is rare for passenger vessels to visit the grim island where the Hebe Stanton is docking, but we can charter a fishing boat and trust the sea behaves. The real work of passing guards and doors will begin if we get on board. Now, actually, this is worth mentioning here. So again, this is something that you get from sort of thinking a little bit about the logic or the world of the secret histories. In this case here, the idea that we're trusting that the sea behaves, well, we do sort of know the aspect that would be more aligned with that, at least maybe from previous playthroughs. In this case, it would be Heart that would give us a little more confidence in terms of being able to pass the sea. So with that in mind, the percussivant becomes quite helpful. We'll probably want to supplement it with another Heart follower, but I'm also bringing Moth follower just in case we need to get past guards. We may also need to bring Knock to deal with Knock to deal with any locks, or Lantern perhaps to find the documents. But either way, we should be good to go. We're repairing the Noonstone. This is getting rid of Fascination. We've got Contentment heading our way, and we are continuing to read the Locksmith Stream. So should be in good shape. I'm actually kind of hoping that we don't have the extended time at the Gaiety this time. If it does happen, it's not the end of the world, but my follower is at work on the stone. Noon, as the saying goes, is not what it was, but this polished stone still retains a sunset glow. So that's 4 lantern power. Again, the Refulgun will give us a little bit more as far as lantern is concerned, but we do need to paint it, and that means that we need to have the passion. Wolf Despair prowls elsewhere. No dread empowers this despair. It's over for now. So we'll get Clova to work on our reputation. Significant conversations in a smoky meeting room. What do I need from my follower? Not everyone is sympathetic to our aims, but if we have problems with our reputation, our disciple can probably smooth them over. And let's see what we're up against. So the expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I could add funds now, or I could send another follower. So indeed, we do need to get past the Western Sea. Most of these islands are well known to the histories, but our destination lies in wild uncharted reaches. We'll need heart or forge to survive. Next, we've got the Watchers, mortals, perhaps even ordinary mortals, but quite a number of them. They can be fought, seduced, or deceived. And finally, a warded door. An engineer or an adept has ensured this door will not open easily. Forge or knock will defeat it. So in this case, let's start by adding another heart follower, just in case we have any problems with the sea. Then we'll add the moth follower, and then we'll add knock. And the reason I'm doing it in that order is just I don't want to lose someone in a fight and find out that I'm short-handed for when we need it. Okay, so we've got 10 seconds. Actually, we're still going to be able to get past the gaiety, so that's and use the Grail influence, so that's nice. I'm a listen package of flesh and blood. Tonight, they'll notice that. Some days are better than others. Sometimes the sky is nothing like a filthy sheet. Sometimes the river runs clear. And we've got a season of sickness coming up, so this is actually not bad that we're putting 2 heart in, because that might provoke a course of the heart. The woman in the sand-colored robe has told me the stairways of the mansis go ever up, death is down. The mother of ants guards both directions with each of her heads, and so the passage must always be through a wound. I think the white door might be a wound. That's one reason the dead sometimes pass it. I think I have the other half of the secret now, and I hope my reader can put both halves together. I don't know quite what the deal is with this winter section, but it feels like madness. Sorry, let me try reading that again. So, the woman in the sand-colored robe has told me the stairways of the mansis go ever up, death is down. The mother of ants guards both directions with each of her heads, and so the passage must always be through a wound. I think the white door might be a wound. That's one reason the dead sometimes pass it. I think I have the other half of the secret now, and I hope my reader can put both halves together. I'm trying to think about the halves of the secrets and what that might be referring to, but it's also been a while since we've read one of the Locksmith's Dreams books. Okay, so we don't need to translate any of these documents right now. So let's keep reading the Gallagher work, and then we'll do Traveling at Night. We'll do this in a slightly different order, but... The Locksmith's Dream, Stolen Reflections. The 4th volume of Teresa Gallagher's expansive work, no longer a discussion of the dreams of artisans, but an invaluable survey of other works. The tone is calmer than that of Trespasses, but occasionally fearful, even paranoid. This volume was published in 1926, but almost immediately recalled and pulped by the publisher, at the request of the author or possibly the authorities, depending on which story you believe. A few copies survive. Oops, sorry, I just tabbed out of the game accidentally. Janus is the gatekeeper, the twin god, the god that wounds, the presager of changes, the sun, the moon. So we identify him with the watchman, the twins, with the mother, with the forge, with the meniscate and the madrigard. He cannot be all these, can he? The Flamines knew the church, knew the dry land, knew Elagabalus. I'll get this one day. Is he then synthesis, or is he something else? In Galatea, they called him Ioannis Lamius, but the Obliviots are notorious for their slanders. I do not know that. I've not actually looked up the translation for Ioannis Lamius, incidentally. I should, but... This is actually one thing that's kind of funny about playing this game when recording, is that every once in a while, it's, I think this is probably true for a few people, but if there's something that catches your eye that you're not familiar with, you look it up, right? This is where some of the fun stuff, it's neat. So I do for me at least, sometimes like it when there's something that well, you know, it's, I guess, a little bit like when you run into those not scenarios, but those incidents where you find someone in dream and you follow the rumor to, you know, to discover a new follower. It's sometimes kind of fun when there's something that you know, and maybe you thought that was like an obscure little bit of history, or, you know, just a fun little detail that maybe, you know, it's kind of hard to say only you knew, but like, you know, it's just something really narrow. Maybe you studied something in school which was very specific, or, you know, you just have a particular fondness for a particular topic. So, you know, you've read all of the books on that subject. So an example for me, like, this isn't true anymore. There've been a few published since then, but like there was a point where I actually could have claimed to have read every English book on Stanley Kubrick. I really, really like him as a filmmaker. And so, you know, obviously we live in a kind of a period of time, you know, things like Wikipedia and Google make it easy to just sort of look up trivia. And I actually don't think that's a bad thing. I know sometimes people will say something along the lines of, you know, it's like, oh yeah, I can use Wikipedia too if you share some knowledge. But obviously there's a Schopenhauer essay on how to think for oneself, and he quotes Goethe's Faust, or Goethe, or however you pronounce it. And it's basically about the idea of having to sort of earn your inheritance. And he's kind of referring to the idea of knowledge, that, you know, it's not just enough to sort of read the line, it's not enough to sort of parrot it back, but you sort of have to wrestle with the ideas and sort of make them your own. So, you know, with that in mind, you know, it's sometimes in these cases, you know, everybody, I think, has something like this for themselves. It doesn't have to be an academic subject, but, you know, whether it's model trains or whether it's, I mean, one need only take a look at something like the Wikipedia, or not Wikipedia, but like the fandom wiki, the fan wikis for like Warhammer 40k stuff, to realize that there are people who really care about this stuff. And what can be fun is, you know, if you have just a little bit of trivia, or if you have a little detail that maybe you're familiar with, and it's fun to point out, and you sort of know there's not a lot of people who know that because maybe they're just not as into that topic as you are, or, you know, whatever reason for it. Every time you kind of catch something like that, so Cultist Simulator is full of this, where it's like, oh hey, you know, I know what they're talking about. That's fun. So that's a really great little moment. And again, I think I've talked enough about sort of seeing those people inside of Dream, and, you know, that moment of reflection. You found someone who knows, and, you know, maybe there's somebody who winds up joining your cult. But the other way that this can come up in the game, of course, is you can run into things that you're not familiar with. And certainly that's happened to me quite a bit in the game as well. I will be honest, I have no idea where, you know, where they come up with this. I cannot imagine, like, I know it can't be all researched. Like, it just kind of feels like, I don't know if you've listened to, sorry, I'm all over the place with this, but for those of you who are fans of this game, if you've not checked out Skeleton Songs, which is the Weather Factory podcast, I would say it doesn't surprise me. You know, it's run by Alexa Kennedy, Lottie Bevan, the co-founders of Weather Factory. And it's certainly not a surprise to me that they are very intelligent, very well-spoken individuals. So there's a side of me which just kind of accepts that probably a lot of the stuff that is, oh God, I didn't know that was a thing, is just sort of knowledge that they have. But I also can't imagine the process through which so many of these details come in. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no research that's gone into this game. I think around the time that Exile was being made, there was actually kind of a call for some recommendations in terms of unusual facts about locations, which I think is really neat. But certainly for me, once I move past some of the things that are within my little circle of competence or interest, it can be fun to read those references and look them up. And again, whether you look them up in in an encyclopedia, Wikipedia, Encyclopedia Britannica, whatever you have access to. Or maybe you have some reference work. So I think when I was talking about the Merovine Idol, because I have a little bit of an interest in classics, certainly not enough for me to sort of fully... I mean, for crying out loud, I still cannot pronounce Elagabalus. I am hoping that's closer. But clearly my interest in the classical world is limited given the fact that I cannot pronounce the name of a Roman emperor. Depending on where your interests lie and depending on what your background is, you may have other references that are a little bit more direct. So in this particular case here, I knew the Perseus library would probably give me a few more references there, and that was because I'd found Kerner and Goethe through that. And of course, it was actually YouTube comments that I'm pretty sure it was YouTube comments that or Steam comments that actually let me know that Gildersleeve's Latin Grammar is also a real book, and I think is available on archive.org. But whether or not it's a legal copy on archive.org is another question, because I don't think they're that careful in terms of copyright. In any case, where I'm going with all of this is just to say, so this can be a fun thing to do, right? Especially if you've gone through Cultist Simulator a few times. It can be kind of neat to just sort of pick up on some of the items that you haven't necessarily, that you're maybe not familiar with, and dig a little bit deeper. But one of the drawbacks, and this is not a complaint, just more of an observation in terms of the differences in terms of how I approach the game, when I'm recording, there's less of an opportunity for me to sort of, pick it up and follow that particular thought. I'm someone who, I still read a lot of physical books, but I actually really do like reading on my tablet. And one reason I like that is because I can double tap a word and look up the definition. I find that very helpful. I like to think I have a reasonable vocabulary, but I cannot imagine a person who likes words and would not want the opportunity to learn more. Someone who likes words probably knows a lot of them, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to look words up. Like, what am I going to do? Pretend I know the definition for the rest of my life? And it's actually so much so that I'll be reading like a textbook, a physical textbook, and I'll sort of reflexively reach to double tap on the word. And of course, then I bang my hand against my forehead. It's actually one reason why I find it hard not to have my phone beside me while reading a book, because it's bad for distractions, but it is rather good for finding definitions. But I've long since moved past the point of a slight difference in terms of playing when recording. We will move on with the playthrough now. I'm debating about this heart thing, but actually, it's not going to get any better by ignoring the dream slot. So we will go back through the white door, hope for a chorus of the heart, and if it doesn't happen, we'll find another way through. So now I approach now I can approach the white door through the bounds. Now I can press my fingers to it, feel its chill, watch it swing open. As it opens, my mouth closes, tightens, heals over like a lost deformity. Around and about me is the cobalt light of the mantis. And tonight they'll notice that. I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards, I received a gift from an admirer, too gaudy for my taste, but I can sell it on the second-hand market. Okay, so no Chorus of the Heart, and we're not going to be doing something that will generate a Chorus of the Heart in the next little while, so we may have to pay for the medicine, but we'll see. Again, maybe I can use the study verb as well. But we are going to try and make something of the urgency of appetite. Now, this will complicate the expedition a bit, because I do need to use knock. Actually, no, it may not. So if I use the Igavine Rite, we'll use the urgency of appetite, and that would just mean I add a moth follower. Now we'll send Saliba on the expedition. We've got Porter, so Yzabet. There we go. Summon one of the more bewildering creatures of the Red Grail. Grail for the raw profit source, and a little moth for its chaos addiction. Okay, good news on the passion. We'll probably just go straight into another painting off of that. Storms rise for the Thunderskin and subside for the Sister. The right words should carry us safe across the sea. So how are we we on? Yeah, we're at 13. So should be fine there. Let's add Sylvia while we can. Another day battered by storms, but we must be close, but the Isles are a maddening maze, and the place we seek lie on no published chart. So we did fail that. Labyrinths of salt and basalt. We'll get through it, though. All right, the locksmith's dream. Janice has, they say, not one face but two, to which I reply, why only one? Why only two? Herschelt and Cosley, according to Thomas Love Denman, once agreed that Janus was all the gods and none, but later Herschelt insisted he was all the gods, and Cosley favored simply none. Denman was a sinister dilettante, but this rings true of them both. Alright, so I wasn't expecting the fascination, so we'll have to deal with that. Of course, maybe I should have, because it is moth text. Got the Ecdysis Parable, which we already had one, but you know, in this case we do have quite a bit that we could use to level up if we need. The Ecdysis Parable, the Ecdysis Riddle is what may be lost, and the Ecdysis Parable is an attempt to answer the riddle. And finally, the Unmerciful Mantra. Mercy, saith the watchman, is only found in shadow. So we will try to get rid of the fascination. I'll use the fleeting reminiscence again. It does make a little bit of a problem create a bit of a problem for us as far as the affliction is concerned, because that's just more time that the affliction is going to be running by. But again, I gotta work with what I've been given, right? I think I'll have to go to the Gaiety right away. Actually, come to think of it, going to the Gaiety may not be a problem, because we take our health. Yeah, so we double up the health, potentially get a Course of the Heart. We dream away the fascination, and in the worst case scenario, we just use money to cure the disease. Okay. So now we'll read Traveling at Night, the annotated dream journals of Christopher Alopoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist, literate, entertaining, bewildering. This is the 3rd volume. Alopoli's disquisitions on fire and the unburnt god are interrupted by passages of distractingly erotic poetry addressed to Baldomera, which I think at least a few of you will know who that is. There may be a reason why I read the 2 books in close proximity. Alright, not bad to have, but I don't think we'll require it. Last night I dreamt of a blue silk pavilion overlooking the cloudy labyrinth of the Bounds. I listened to the mistress of this place speak of other visitors. The Suppression Bureau come here. Did you know that? I think they hope to recruit me as an ally, she snorts derisively. After what they tried to do to my Christopher. But their folly is your fortune. I'll tell you something that may help you if the Bureau ever troubles you. So, I do have that in my pocket. I probably don't want to try and destroy the evidence at this point, because it doesn't seem like we've got it doesn't seem like we have a season of suspicion coming up in a time where that will matter. But, you know, we can always add the raw profit to the expedition. Okay, dream slots. We've got the fascination and the fleeting reminiscence to clear that out. The summoning is struggling against my control. I could use reason to dismiss it safely, which is always reliable. I could try to reassert control with passion, which is not reliable. Or I could let what will happen happen. Now, I don't need the raw... Excuse me. As I just said, we don't really need to worry about the tentative evidence as much as we did before. So in this case, I will use my reason to dismiss it. Pronounce the words of dismissal, seal the circle tight, erase every trace. And I don't know, it's just the idea. I think the idea of risking the consequences of it breaking free for something that I really don't need for the purposes of the expedition seems like a waste of resources. Oh, good lord. Okay. I was certainly... Well, we can still get through this, actually. It's not as disastrous as I thought. But, I mean, we did send the percussicant on this expedition to, to try and preserve it, and I failed to do so. Although, it is actually going to generate a heart influence, which can turn into a vitality. So I suppose it's shown its use in an unconventional way. Okay, so we've got Clovette working on our reputation, so let's bring Leo into the expedition to help us cross the water. We also need to add some money when we can. No one understands us, or else they understand us too well. Alright, you did your best, Clovette, but we're going to need a little bit more from you. Not everyone is sympathetic to our aims, but if we have problems with our reputation, our disciple can probably smooth them over. It is banished or destroyed, so we'll just wait for those trembling airs to expire on their own. We've got a minute before that happens, and then we can apply that to the affliction. Pronounce the words of dismissal, seal the circle tight, erase every trace. Alright, and there's an awareness of appetite, which isn't too big of a deal right now, but... Oh, we've got 2 of those, actually. Okay, let's get back to the gaiety before we're too late. The stage awaits, hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. Now, I'm tempted to actually take a lot of this notoriety and paint. It probably means that I get some mystique as well, but it seems like a bit of a waste when I have restlessness coming up to... not to take advantage of it. We'll see. In any case, we're on our way. We're kind of on our next steps. So storms rise for the Thunderskin and subside for the Sister. The right words should carry us safe across the sea. So we'll see if we get across this time. If we do, that's one less problem on my list. To reach the stag door, I believe that all you really need is to want something enough, but I've never wanted anything that much except, of course, Baldemera, and I'm very much afraid that the knot in the story is this. What Baldemera wants is the stag door. But here's something I learned in Persia. Perhaps it'll teach you what you want. So some erudition and the Smith's Secrets. On to... let's do the treatise on the underplaces. Herein, the 17th century mystic and antiquarian Claude Herschel describes the bounds or underplaces on the borders of dream. He warns that they shift over time. The walls of the mansis, Herschel begins, are the size of starlight. Many of his directions are equally unhelpful, but common relationships do emerge. So I'm just going to leave the dream slot open for now. We've got 12 seconds before we'll be able to clear it out. Wave lashed and sea spattered, sun scorched and salt stained, but here. And unfortunately we don't have what we need for the opportunity at the Gaiety, so tonight they'll notice that, and I'll probably just do a painting then. Nope, we got our vitality. All I need now is time. I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards I received a gift from an admirer. Too gaudy for my tastes, but I can sell it on the second-hand market. Alright, so I believe... yeah, I'm gonna wait. And I am gonna do a... actually, hang on. Nope, with the painting that we've got, I am actually going to do the esoteric art after all. Okay, let's go for the heart. Those who know will understand, as will the Suppression Bureau. It's mostly just because I have the extra rose pearl dust, so if I mess something up, I'm in good shape. Of course, what was I thinking? Now I've got the restlessness that I need to deal with. All right, I'm no further along my path of change. In the movements of the secret forums, I must find my lesson. So there's a few things I can do with the restlessness. I could even just kind of let it run by unless we have a season of despair coming up. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I could add funds now, or I could send another follower. I think in this case we're going to add more money, and then we'll bring the knock people in when we have to. No one understands us, or else they understand us too well. Not quite sure why I did that. See, I'm just trying to think if there's something I can do with the restlessness and the talk verb. I could bring someone in, but again, that's a little much for what I actually need to do. So let's just get Clovette back on the charm offensive. Not everyone is sympathetic to our aims, but if we have problems with our reputation, our disciple can probably smooth them over. I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. And a picturesque account of a journey through nightmare, interspersed with what might be partial rites. On the 18th ascent is the bud. On the 36th ascent, the blossom. Another very Gavin rite for us. Okay, so now we'll read the Wainscot histories. That's actually the last of the text that I have that will get me more lore. So we know we're no closer to answering the Stag Doors riddle, although with some luck we'll get the Tantras before too long. Subtitled Stories from Behind the Walls, a miscellany of non-traditional histories compiled by William Gore, including battles not generally acknowledged and countries which appear on no map, told in a playful, apparently fictional manner. Gore does not mention the Mansis directly, but constant coy metaphorical references to ascending the staircase of years, to the doors of sleep, and to the blue light of dawn suggest he had commerce with the unseen world. And I think on that note, actually it's not, there's a few things that we can sort of see the payoffs for, right? The charm, the expedition continuing, and maybe I'll read the text for this in the next video again if I remember to, because it's actually very late. I'll probably have to divide the recording into two parts. But I think for today, we're in a decent place to stop. So it's a little bit of a shame that we lost the Percussagant, but it did help us recover our health. So no summons, but a reasonably well-equipped cult who can basically do what's required. The evidence is gone. The only threat to us right now is the restlessness. And, you know, in a perfect world, I would have turned that into a painting. Now we'll probably just dream it away. I don't have contentment, but we may be getting some contentment from the painting that we do. And I think once we're done with the notoriety, so one of the notoriety here is going to be gone in about a minute anyway. But once we've cleared out sort of the big slug of notoriety we've got right now, what I might do is hand in the Secret Histories Commission, because at some point I'm going to have to deal with that. Just at the moment, it would be kind of nice to get rid of. I don't know, like it'd be nice to kind of bring it back to a manageable amount of reputation as opposed to just have a few things blocking my ability to get rid of notoriety. We'll see. Like most of these are kind of arbitrary decisions, but I don't know. Part of this game is intuition, right? You do what feels right. In any case, thank you very much for watching. If you've not subscribed to the channel yet, please consider doing so. You can push the button down below, and just to the right of it, there is a bell if you would like to be getting notifications for when new videos come online. And as far as this video is concerned, if you did enjoy it, please consider leaving a like, and if you'd like, also please leave a comment. I like reading them, and likes and comments do help the videos get noticed, which of course makes me feel like $1 million and encourages me to do more. No, you've all been very wonderful about that, and it is in fact the reason why I still continue to do Cultist Simulator videos. And for some of you who've been watching for a while, you know that I've actually kind of been increasing the rate at which these videos go online, and I certainly try and do more where I can. So a lot of that is actually the fact that so many of you have been very, very kind in your words. So again, it's not just asking people for things. I do like kind of letting you all know what the effects of your nice actions are. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening. Take care.